So Saul and I met over TikTok, like, I don't know how long it's been, like 6 months ago or longer than that. It was like,
Yeah.
it's been a little bit of time. And I was doing a live and you popped on, and your curiosity over Faithism and WASPy kind of blew me away. And the more you learned, the more excited you got. And then we've had a couple of private conversations. And so tonight, we talked about several different topics, maybe going over the science of WASPy or going over different things. But Saul in his wisdom wants to talk about the foundation, which is, what is the creator? Like, you know, the qualities and aspects and the reality of that topic. And that is the foundation of everything. So that's a good place to start. And so I offered to provide a format for him to have a little bit of Q&A with some other Faithists. And so I'm just hosting. I'm letting Saul have free reign to ask whatever questions he wants to you guys. And we can go as long as we want to go. Basically, that's it.
Okay. All right.
Is there an echo, or is it just on my side?
No, I can hear the echo too. I'm not sure who it's coming from.
Could be mine if I was using
coming
speaker
through.
thing.
Is the echo gone?
How about now?
Yeah,
Testing.
that works. Yep.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
If it's better, I won't be as close. Okay, but you can hear me.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So the first thing I want to do is to let Saul give us his sort of the first impressions and like his thought process of, as he was exposed to the book of WASPy, like what was going through his mind, just to kind of catch you up with what his journey has been. And then after he gives a little bit of that, then he can start picking you guys' brains as far as the questions he wanted to go over. Go ahead, Saul. Tell us about your first impressions.
So when I came across David's live, I saw the core tenets that he was speaking to in regards to a WASPy, and it was service. It was that there was no specific anthropomorphic God, and that the concept is this spiritual basis, and the core of the spiritual basis in general for just as a principle. And that's what caught my attention. It wasn't so much focused on the narrative, and it was more about the roots. And so for me, spiritually speaking, I care about that most of all. My interest had to do with how this developed, where it came from, and as I started to see some of the symbolism, I understood these are ancient. Like, it matches with various other disciplines of spirituality that I am familiar with. So it resonated in that regard. And so I started talking with David more about what is a WASPy, where did it come from, what are the things that are involved, and he started to share some of that with me, which caught my attention more and more. What really caught my attention as I started learning a bit more was the science behind it. The science that was revealed was very, very profound, given the time in which the content was first penned. And I understand that the method for how this came about was pretty extraordinary as well. So those are the things that really caught my attention. I'm really interested in understanding more about the purpose behind the creator and how this fits into our world now. That's really what I'm interested in understanding. How does the creator interface? Why does the creator choose what the creator chooses, and what the book of WASPy has to share about those things?
Let me ask you a question from what David had shared with me about you, that you're aware of the secret doctrine in H.P. Blavatsky and the teaching of theology. Theosophists, I mean.
Yes, very much so.
Okay, so there are very much symbolism in the. If I remember, it's been a while since I've read the Secret Doctrine, but there's a term for the infinite, if I recall it correctly, as beingness, the all-beingness that's everywhere. So in that concept, that is saying very much the similar thing, the ever-present presence of being in all places at all time. Or as Chief Joseph of the Nez Pez explained it to the translation of what he understood the term Great Spirit was, is the mystery, the great mystery of life that's ever present in all places. The term Eoi in Owaspy, with its just the leaf and the circle, refers to boundless life. And just using those three, it would sound at the basis of Theosophy and of Faithism that is a similar and united concept. So what's your thought on that?
Yes, I do recognize that as very much in alignment. So the Hindu thinking in regards to the one, the Hindu, the Brahmanism aspect, those are very much one and the same, the thread there. So Theosophy, it draws very much from this Hinduist concept, the pantheistic concept, and it seems as though Faithism does the same. And the same thing in regards to, I would say, depending upon the specific flavor of Buddhism as well, is the same, that there's beingness, but there's not being, like apart from everything else, but that there's this all pervasiveness. And that is, it's very much akin to the Eastern philosophies and the Eastern philosophy in terms of this overarching being or consciousness.
And yes, that is the basic thing. And when I studied years ago all these different religions, I was always, and maybe Spirit was drawing me that way, to see the oneness past the cultural interpretations. It's just one. There's nothing else but the one.
All right.
That has no second, as they would put it in Kabbalistic terms, which that, of course, includes us as from my understanding, our fractional I am, which is our personal total I am, is a fraction of the great I am, of the living life force being that's already, it's all things, and it's the all in all within and over and beyond all and all that kind of thing. But it is also, for me, the ever becoming, in the sense that our I am is always growing into the I am from which it came and is part of.
Yeah. And it's if I can add to that, it's a system or a journey of what we call perpetual incarnation, where you have the free will. And when I say free will, it's free will of choice. Free will is not something that takes away from the consequences of your actions. Free will just has to do with the freedom to choose based on your understanding, and based on what you choose and your behavior and your thought patterns. That determines your rate of growth. And with the Creator, it tells you specifically in the Book of Jehovah what our purpose is here, and that is for us to become the gods that are in us. It's for us to become a god, and even beyond that, like I said, it's a system of perpetual growth, and it's a system that is way beautiful. It's a system that I can accept over being damned to hell, or a system I can accept over reincarnation, because reincarnation is what you call a closed circuit. You know, people that believe in reincarnation believe that you come back over and over and over again, and it's a cycle that never ends. And that, to me, sounds very miserable. Before, in the book of Jehovah, the purpose of us, it says, death I made so that we could rise and inherit the Ethereal worlds, which are the worlds that's out there in the ether, or what man calls space right now. And so that's our inheritance. This is the heavens. This is the heavens right here. It's just that earth is considered a lower heaven because of the way we created it to be, based on our choices and our decisions. This has nothing to do with a devil that's sitting on the throne. This doesn't even have anything to do with a God that's sitting on the throne. This has to do with our responsibility and accountability for our actions and for the way we made the state of the world today. And as units of, or I'm gonna say as members of the all person, we are responsible, we are accountable, and we are all contributing to either something good or something bad, in that respect, in our own little corner of existence. We're all in it together, whether you like it or not.
My question was, can you speak to this karmic breaking of the cycle, or this karma? How is that perceived within Oahspe? Both you and Darryl mentioned that we are responsible for breaking family karmic ties. How does that work?
All right. Well, if we take, I mean, these words, karma is no different than saying, and you reap what you sow.
Right.
It's no different than what comes around goes around, or what you put out there will come back and smack you in the face or lift you up, dependent on what you're putting down.
Right.
Even if you don't understand, ignorance of the law is no excuse. You can be treated different from a spiritual point if you really didn't know. But if you know and you do it, that's intentional, what I would call the difference between sin and evil. Because in Oahspe, in the highest understanding of evil is simply unripeness, immaturity, don't have a clue of consequences,
right,
or totally disregard taking that responsibility. So karma is what we inherited. If in my building that was built in 1884, when the pipe breaks, I can't say, well, I didn't do that, so I don't have to fix it.
Right.
It is as simple as that. Things wear out, they get screwed up. They may have started out with the best intentions, and just like the cycles that Oahspe talks about, and I think to what I remember of the secret doctrine, they talking about cycles. So the cycle comes in, it starts all brand new, grand opening, ... By the end of the cycle, and those who have been reading Oahspe know, it deteriorates, it gets tired, it gets broken down. What was good actually becomes bad sometimes because it serves its purpose and is broken down.
It sounds like a process of maturation.
Yeah.
I'd
And
like to speak on the karma.
Yeah. So go ahead, David.
Like a community can grow in like high vibration or shrink to low vibration, right? And if generations pass and the community or the group of people sort of shrink in their spiritual capabilities, that affects each generation, and they get darker, like their capabilities get less and less. And so in Oahspe, it talks about for different occasions, there will be hand-selected marriages. And so the offspring of that lineage is chosen, handpicked, so that they will begin to reverse the process. And it takes like 6 generations to overcome all of that communal sort of baggage. and I'm not sure if it's genetic or if it's just energetic of there's a sense of this communal baggage that we all share that we can grow out of by our own discipline, but also through the careful matchups of people who are on that path. If you get two people who are on the path of enlightenment and they come together and have offspring, that offspring will be will have a leapfrog effect.
Yeah.
And if that offspring finds somebody else and they get together, it'll have another leapfrog effect.
Yeah.
But so that's an aspect of sort of like karma over generations. There's another aspect of it. If you set up a cult or anything and you become the leader of it and the followers follow you and you're wrong, you're leading them down into a place of darkness, when you die, that doesn't just go away. The people who attach to your teachings, it's your responsibility to help them shake off those bad teachings. So that's why when you become a leader, you really want to make sure that you're doing the right thing, because they'll be attached to your path once that bond is set. So those are two kind of examples of sort of karma over large periods of time.
This Kosmon thing, now we're at the age, supposedly according to the teaching, where we possess enough spiritual knowledge and corporeal knowledge to really kind of take charge of things as a more mature adult and people with more abstract responsibilities in governing themselves. And that's a very important piece that to understand. It is about where, again, all of this seems to me, in my humble understanding, it is about this maturing thing. And the more we learn, some say, "Oh, I'm going to be a god someday." Well, if we can't even master our own thoughts and feelings, it's going to be a long time before we become anything like a god or a chief executive officer of any kind in the next world. So we have to become the monitor or the God over our own behavior, and start learning how to really take responsibility for ourselves. And that's hard, because at the same time, and we have to overcome our tetracts, our negative things for leadership, vanity, all this kind of thing, and become aware of it, first of all, of ourselves. So know yourself kind of philosophy fits into it. And the more we can understand ourselves and understand how and what we need as individuals, as a unique, never before, never ever again, as exactly like we are, created being, what we need to grow into our, how I look at it, is our overall goal or archetype of what we're growing into. Hopefully I'm clear.
It is, definitely what you're describing is very clear. I'm so very curious as to why this process of growth is even necessary to begin with. What is it that, so if you have one thing, there is the all. Where does, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of movement at all? Movement meaning that the purpose. So you have beings that are not this fractionalization of the all being. What is that?
Growth, expansion. The Creator is always the same, always the thing, but is not the Creator also the thing of expansion and growth, as at the same time being fixed and immovable, which again for us in this duality is very hard to kind of put together.
Here's a contrast, Saul. I remember this really struck me as a pretty big contrast. In Genesis, it talks about the creation week, and the Creator rested. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about the idea of a being whose quality is to create, and then they stopped creating. That doesn't make any sense. In a WASPy, it talks about the Creator as being totally not at rest, always creating. To stop creating would be to stop being the Creator. And so that contrast of the Creator in the Bible finishing and resting, compared to what we know the Creator is in the book of WASPy, it's part of, it can't stop the motion of its own creation. It's part of the DNA of the Creator. Go ahead, Darryl.
No, and yeah, I was gonna say, y'all hit on a couple of things that I want to touch on. First and foremost, we like to say creator because creator has a positive connotation to it. But the creator is just as much a destroyer as it is a creator.
Oh,
We
yeah.
don't say
So that's true. Yeah.
And we don't say destroyer because destroyer in people's minds has a negative connotation, which is the reason why I personally don't like to say creator. I also don't like to say destroyer because it's both. This being that we subjected to, this created universe that we're subjected to, is dual. It's a dual being, almost like, I don't want to say androgynous because it is male and female, but it's also up, down, left, and right. It's also darkness and light. It's also creation and destruction. Now, people get baffled by that when they say, well, how could something be a creator and a destroyer at the same time? Well, destruction and creation are part of the processes of themselves. Every act of creation is an act of destruction, and every act of destruction is an act of creation. You can't escape it. Anytime you want to create something is being destroyed in the process. Anytime you destroy something is being created in the process. And that is something that is objective and it's observable. And because it's objective and because it's observable, it is a fact. And because it is a fact, it is a phenomenon that cannot be refuted at all. I wanted to say, brother, I know you're trying to understand more things about this source, this creator, this destroyer, this all duality. And even in the WASPy, it says that it's simple, but at the same time, it's also very complicated too, because there are gods that are still scratching their heads. There's gods, man, that's like 200,000, a million years old. They still scratching their heads trying to understand what this thing is. And us as like mortals of like 40, 60, 80 years, man, we ain't gonna come close to anything that they've even figured out. So when it comes to creator, there's gonna be a lot of questions that are going to go unanswered.
Are you referring to circumstances and situations that are designed in order to push you to a new level?
Yes. Did anybody ever see the series Babylon 5?
I did not.
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, a quick feed on it. It boils down to there was the first race of man. And then from that, two races came out of it. It's almost like a Kabbalistic thing with Binah and Hokmah. And the one race, when it got down to downstep into our race of people, or the present human beings and humanoid beings of the time of the story, the one group was always, well, we just give them all the information. We keep on giving them over. We don't, we just help them grow. The other one says, no, was designed, initially did it for the good of, no, we need to put some, like a parent is, usually it's the mom, usually. The mom is the one, oh no, don't push him right now. The father's saying, no, he got to find out what's the deal. And so that push and pull. But as time went on, that group became more occupied with the mechanics of throwing in, and didn't start evil, but it became evil because they ended up doing it as a self-centered war against the other side. Did I make myself clear there?
Or
So,
or
okay.
even simpler, Saul, I'm sorry. So
No. I understand. I do understand. So let me express where my mind is. What I'm doing is I'm thinking about the fundamental whys underneath the processes and things. So what I mean by that is I recognize that in order to even really address the creator, time has to be removed altogether. There's no before, during, and after. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, there really isn't. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to say this real quick. When you read Book of Jehovah, chapter 1, verse 1, it specifically says all is, all was, all ever shall be. That means it had no ending, it had no beginning. And I'm gonna be honest with you, even that's something that is too vast for me to even comprehend. I'm just too fragile to comprehend something like that.
It is definitely a challenge to begin to think about it, because the confines of, because thought is linear. We're thinking, we're considering, but nothing there's, so we say creation.
When you say linear, what do you mean by linear? Define that for me so that I can understand.
A progression that is now to then to what was, and in reference to what was. So this linear 1, 2, 3, 4, so on, does not exist. And I know this. So for example, it's like saying in plain terms, 4 plus 4 is 8. Okay.
Yeah.
8 has been there. The person doing the calculation is the individual that is coming to this understanding of what has always been, that 8 is there, that the 4 and 4, the relationship, they're coming to a recognition of a relationship between two quantities and this result. But the numbers don't move. Numbers don't move.
Okay, can I poke a hole in that for you real quick?
Please.
4 plus 4, it does equal 8. Assuming that you're working with an infinite range of numbers. But if you're working with a limited range of numbers, 4 plus 4 is not going to always equal 8. I can show you. I can show that to you. Okay. So let's say for instance, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna break it down simply. Let's say 2 plus 2 equals 4.
Okay.
Right. 2 plus 2 equals 4, assuming that we're working with a limited range of numbers. Okay. And I know we in mathematics, that's different from life, which is variable. So we're playing. All right. Now, 2 plus 2 equals 4, assuming we're working with an infinite range of numbers. If I'm somebody that is not working with the limited range of numbers, say my range of numbers, say my infinite range of numbers has been limited to 0, 1, and 2.
Okay.
2 plus 2 will never equal 4 to a person like me, because I can't even see past 2 to even get to 3 to even get to 4. So 2 plus 2 is going to always equal 1, because every time I add, I have to reset back to 0.
But isn't that just a matter of perspective? It's not really based on reality, though.
Say that again.
Isn't that just a position of perspective? It's not really a reflection of reality.
Yeah, it is. It is a position of perspective, and that's why I'm bringing that up, because it doesn't. It would to a lot of people, and especially with people we deal with when we debate Owaspy versus other books of theology. You have people out there that think that really don't work metaphorically or analogically with an infinite range of numbers. They just can't. A lot of people can't see that 2 and 2 are 4.
Okay,
I mean, it's
so that you've described a limitation, like David said, in the person's perspective, but that is not a true representation of what is being done
No, it's not. No, it's not a true representation. Yeah, I'm just giving an example of just how some people move.
Right.
I mean, you got people out there that move
Right.
in that
So,
fashion.
right. But we are talking about, so the thing is though, we are talking about an unlimited being. We're talking about reality, which it means that there's no movement. So a creator, for example, to create something from our perspective, we say there was a point in which there was not, then there was a point in which there was something happening, and then a point of a result. That is our most basic thinking, and we're locked into that, a before, a during, and an after.
I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm locked into something like that, because it would okay, here's my thinking, here's my understanding. It would even still baffle me if things always were. It would baffle me if something just came from nothing. I mean, that's something that just will baffle me, because that's not anything that I can go way back and go see for myself. You know,
no, but that's the point.
question,
that's the point that I'm making. So to go anywhere back or forward, that is the linearity, right? It is either a before or an after. There is no thinking. Any thinking that we as human beings have exist in a linear plane.
period.
If I may.
Go ahead, Peter.
The first one we need to remember, at least I don't want to sound like too like, well, we, anyway, I think one of the first things to look at is that we start off created in a very confining reality that is lineal. So even our abstract thinking is influenced by our construction on this level. In philosophy, we're referred to as not even born into the realer world of spirit. So we are an embryo in an animal body, which in that sense, we're all mothers, because our spirit, our unique spirit, and we're connected to a greater spirit, but our unique spirit is the baby. And it's in the corporeal person. And that corporeal...
I found this on the web, and it's in the corporeal.
No.
Check it out.
No. Stop. You've got to stop. You're helpful now. Why don't you help me when I need help? Thank you. I'm going to do a little ditty here. I think everybody's familiar with Billy Preston's song, "Nothing from Nothing Makes Nothing." Okay, so those are 2 zeros, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I put those 2 zeros on top of each other, what do we have?
You got more 0.
No, we got 2 zeros that make the number 8. And if we knock that 8 down, we have the symbol for infinity.
Infinity, yeah.
So what I'm trying to say, that concrete beings trying to fully understand an abstraction of dimensions above us is something we should seek, but they're counter to each other. One of the things I got, looking at the creator symbol, and it's flat, it's two-dimensional, it's a written symbol. And all of a sudden it started opening up, and there were thousands within the one symbol, like when you're doing 3-dimensional drawings. Mm-hmm. And then 6-dimensional, it was giving me the idea that this is the approach. Like it even says about, when a spirit is born from the flesh, it's like a little chick, and it looks around and thinks it knows everything. So same here, we need to have that desire to know. But Saul, one of the things you're doing is I know I've gone through that with years. Well, why this? And sometimes Spirit answers us, why not?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm with Saul too. I just, there's a lot of things that I just don't understand. But
Right.
I'm trying to understand the creator that is within me. And if I understand the creator that is within me, I can understand that I can understand the creator that is within all, which is why I have a genuine love. As I grow spiritually, I have and intellectually, I have a genuine love for people, even if I had met them, for them to just be the best person that they can be. And
Exactly.
it's just a base, it's just a general base love. Like I just want to see everybody to just be the best that they can be, self-actualized. And I'm a mirror the creator's words is, just grow however you know how to grow, but don't grow at the expense of regressing other people.
Exactly.
So
And I think that's
I definitely believe that the value in any understanding is the ability to serve other people in a very positive and tangible way. And with the spiritual understandings, a principle that I go by and that I recognize is whether this truth, any truth, how, not whether, but how connections are made, or a connection, something that connects to something else. So for example, principles do not negate. They don't say this, but not that. They just show a connection between all things. So when it comes to a spiritual truth, a person says, oh, this is my religion, my thought, and it contrasts here. Any contrast then is a missing component. It is not a principle. So an example is like the absolute principle of all principles is unity. Everything is there is nothing outside of unity. There's no concept or thought or any reality by anyone ever at any point in time where unity is not at the premise of it. An interconnection. When I say unity, I mean an interrelatedness or an interconnection.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and that's why I said earlier that whether anybody likes it or not, we are all subjected to this reality. We're all subjected to this universe, and we're all connected. We're all connected through this by virtue of the presence. We're connected through this being that did this.
Right. So then this connection, the connection point, that's where I'm looking to better understand some of these aspects in order to bridge connections between understandings that would be like just to bridge understanding, period, and values.
I guess I'm trying to go ahead, Peter.
Statement in OSB that reads, it defines what is meant by the term all person. And it means the unity and the harmony of the whole, just what you're talking about. So are you aware of something called Gestalt psychology?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so Gestalt psychology is very similar to what OSB, from my remembering. At first, I got it strangely enough when I was going to acting school, and it turned out that the guy who founded the teaching school was a mystic. But again, there's all angles of vision. And that angle of vision is true, but it's all part of one whole. And how you perceive it, just like we have a cross street. There's an accident in the middle of the cross street.
Yep.
I am standing on one corner, David's standing on another corner.
Yep.
Darryl's standing on another.
I love this.
Saul, you're on another. What you see for your truth in the actuality of what is, is your truth, and it is true. As much as the brain, the mind, all that stuff can perceive the event and translate it to the understanding. It is no falsity to my truth, but I'm going, if I'm going to put it in religious thing, well, listen, man, you just don't know, because I saw the real deal, man.
Right.
I know the truth.
Right.
I know it's true.
Well, right. I love this analogy, Peter, because you know the accident, because we all seen the same accident, but we just seen it from our own points of view. You know what I'm saying? And so I can't tell the person that's seen the accident on the corner across from me that, oh man, you don't know what you're talking about. No, I know what I'm talking about. We seen the same accident. We just saw it from different views, but it's the same accident. I love that analogy, man.
And that can be applied to most anything. And then, as I think most of us here would know, or I think all of us would know, that just from a scientific point of view, there's all kinds of stuff happening, but our brain, our construction, cannot see all the stuff around us. We'd be so overwhelmed if we would explode, because we're not in a place where we have the attributes for that. It's like a person, a dummy in the spirit world, 200 years, could run rings around us if he wanted to con us, because he got a better picture.
Yeah.
He has an understanding we don't have.
Or even a person on the north, a person standing in the North Pole viewing the sky ain't seeing it the same as somebody standing at the North Pole that's viewing the sky. You know, we all viewing the same thing that's connected, but we're looking at a whole different set of stars and nebula and other space substances.
Right.
You know?
And like it says in OSB, no two people can ever see or understand anything exactly alike. It is
even
not
the creator. Even the creator. That includes the creator too. We will never see the creator the same. We're looking at the same thing, but we're just looking at it differently.
So Saul, hang on, let me interject here. I want to make sure Saul has the space to articulate a really specific question if you have a question that really gets to the heart of what you're asking, and we'll just take as much time as you want, because I know sometimes asking a really good question is sort of a process as you go.
I do appreciate that. I have a few questions. So what is the response from a waspy or a person who is studying a waspy to an atheist? A person who says there's only what it is that we see. We're talking about perspective. There's nothing more than what it is that we can observe from a physical level. What is the response that you have to a person like this?
I'll go first on that. Peter, can I go first on that?
Oh yeah, go ahead, because I was going to go in on that one. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go. Then Darryl, you can follow, and then we'll let Peter. So my understanding from WASPy is that our position is not to persuade anybody of anything, because everyone has their own path that they have to go on.
Yep.
And being an atheist is a valid path. It will have lessons, and being an atheist is not the end of the world. It's not the end of the journey, anyways. And so I wouldn't go out of my way to argue with an atheist. I mean, if they're open to an exchange of ideas, then I can present my ideas and they can present their ideas. But persuasion for me as a faithist is kind of like an inappropriate part. It's not part of the assignment. Okay, Darryl, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with David. First of all, persuasion and trying to get you to turn or whatever. That's not what we do. We don't. The Creator said, don't try to twist anybody's arm to get to know me. Everybody has their own personal path, and whoever's an atheist, that's just what their journey is. To get on a deeper level, and I wish I had recorded where this is found in the WASP, but actually atheists have higher spirit rates than people that are involved in religions and worship gods and saviors. Mm-hmm. Because you have some really, really good, decent atheists that are out there really, really serving. And I personally know some atheists that don't eat meat. They don't condone war. They're not racist. I can build with them and rap with them. I can be in better harmony with them than I can talk with somebody that's involved in a religion.
Brother, put it down. Yeah, man.
Oh,
put
okay.
it. That's it. Yeah.
But
And
there's
so,
a difference. There's a difference between persuasion and conversation.
oh, okay. Well, this,
And from the
yeah,
context of conversation, what does a faithist say to
okay,
a person who said, I recognize that there's only the empirical things. Why or how do you come to any knowledge of anything outside of what it is that we can quantify
okay.
Well,
empirically?
let me.
Go ahead,
What is the
Peter.
response?
I'll
Okay.
respond. I'll respond after you. Go ahead.
This is for me, it's a very important point. And I had mentioned this in a conversation. I forget where it was. When you did the thing with Cal, that in my knowledge, atheism, early Christians, and again, we want to make a difference here between heathen and atheist. So
Yep.
just hold that in your thought. An atheist and among my Quaker group too, people have talked the same thing. Christians and Jews originally, before the Constantinian worship Jesus thing, were called atheists because they wouldn't believe in the gods. They only believed into this unseen power. And this is a very important thing to remember. In the book about Brahma and his wife Yutiv, the youngest son, because Brahma had kind of not lost faith, but his wife had, and that was important because, who was shapen in the womb, could not believe spirit. I mean, all the other brothers that he had, they were seeing spirits. Brahma saw spirits, Mama saw spirits. And he was like, look, all I know is that you are good people. You are gods and goddesses in the highest meaning of how that meant back there, of impeccable behavior and good and kind. And so, to cut it short a little bit, it says in Owaski, there's two kinds of good people in the world. The Faithists, meaning the kind of people we're talking about, by whatever name you want to call them, who understand the ways and the person of the Creator to the extent we do, and the realist or the materialist, who is a good person and does good because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
And that's kind of summing up what Darryl.
Okay, yeah, definitely. There's no question. Wait a
minute. Let me finish. Let me
okay.
finish.
Yeah, I got to add on to it as well. Go ahead. Yeah.
Right. Remember what I said in the beginning. I don't want to say what was said in the beginning here. EOI, the leaf and the circle, simply means abundant life. You show me one atheist that doesn't believe in life and wants to be the best, like Darryl was saying, the best person with the highest moral intentions, ethical intentions, and spiritual growth is the growth of wisdom, truth, virtue, and benevolence. That person is spiritual. He doesn't have to, or she does not have to see into the psychic realms of the next world.
Not at all.
They may have to get adjusted for their ears and eyes to see the substance, but they are living that life. It's, to use the Christian thing, don't worship Jesus, be Jesus. Live the example. Whatever you believe about an afterlife, and even us who do, we won't know what it's really like. I get visions all the time. I take the ones I can really trust as true. But that's my truth, and I don't know what it's going to look like when I go there. I'm legally blind since birth, and I've heard stories of people who have been totally blind since birth, and they get for whatever reason, they get sight, and it terrifies them because nothing fits what they imagined it would look like. It is totally alien to them. And I personally had cataract operation, and they put a little magnifier on. All of a sudden, everybody was too much in my face. I felt invaded for a while until I adjusted.
All right, Darryl, go ahead and give your thought, and let Saul. I think we're missing his question. So go ahead, Darryl, and then let Saul.
Okay, I was
No,
yeah.
I-
So I was
Go
yeah.
ahead,
So
Darryl.
first and foremost, when I talk, if I had a conversation with an atheist, first and foremost, the proof of a creator is creation. Everything that was created has a creator behind it. That's what reality objectively shows me. And I know I've been talking a lot about being objective and reality, but being a faithist is really we're what you consider objective spiritualists. And then someone once asked me the question, well, how could you objectively see spirit? My question is, well, how can you not? Because as much as we whether you agree with it, you don't agree with it, the seen, which is objective, is ruled by the unseen. Well, things that are unseen can be objective too, like our experiences, but the seen is ruled by the unseen. All that is seen, all that you can see, all that is tangible to your senses is ruled by the unseen. Without that consciousness that you have in your mind right now, your flesh wouldn't be moving. Okay? Without what people erroneously call gravity, without that invisible phenomenon, that unseen phenomenon, no planets would be in motion. No planets would even be condensed. And we don't even call it gravity amongst the Faithists. We call it vortex motion or vortexian current, which is a conversation for another day. Okay, so so reality shows us. Oh, sorry. The main thing, the main point that I wanted to make is that all that is unseen is what makes the seen move, and you can always see the unseen by the way it expresses itself and the impression that it makes on things that are seen. So there are unseen phenomena that's going on. We're full of unseen phenomena. Your emotions are unseen. Your feelings, all that is unseen. Your consciousness is unseen. That force that's driving you, it's unseen. That force that's spinning the planet, that keeps planet condensed, it's unseen.
Yeah, I think. See, with Darryl, I think.
Hang on, Peter. Peter, let's let Saul have a chance to respond and maybe rephrase this question.
So I do hear and understand, and I personally hold the same thinking, that the unseen forces are fundamental to the things that are seen. And I think the question is more about the conviction that you hold for this truth. What is at the center of your personal conviction for what the Book of Owaspy expresses?
Well, that's a really good question. Well, first and foremost, the Owaspy is backed by reality. Owaspy ain't even the true book. Owaspy is not our doctrine. That's one misconception that people have. The doctrine is reality itself and its creation. That's what our doctrine is. Now, if you were to ask me if Owaspy is 100% true, I would never agree to that, because there's a lot of things that Owaspy still has yet to prove to me. That I just wanted to get out the way. Now, at the core of my conviction, I believe that is an answer that differs between everyone. That's not a universal answer, or there's not one answer that I can give you that would mean the same thing to another faithist. I have my reasons. I have my own personal reasons why, because I've tried the atheism thing before. It lasted for about maybe 2 days.
Yeah.
and that's because I can't, there's something that's there that's existing. And it's like a knowing without knowing. And but I can't prove that to another person. That's just whatever my convictions are. That's just something that's part of my personal journey. That's not something that I can say, well, this is my personal conviction, and I feel that you should have that same conviction too. You have to find that within yourself. That has to do with your growth and your understanding. I can't say what my conviction is, because my conviction ain't the same as David Merle's conviction. David Merle's conviction ain't the same thing as Peter's conviction. You know, I wish I had a direct answer for you, but that's something that you have that every individual has to find within themselves.
I think I was going to answer when you said, what would you tell an atheist? Tell you the truth, the atheists that I've run into have been very moral, higher character people.
Yeah.
And I would say more if this atheist, so-called atheist guy, is doing more good or has accomplished things that I'm trying to, I wouldn't try to prove a creator. I would ask him how he thought I could do more help, be more of a help in whatever I was trying to be more of a help in. I wouldn't try to teach him anything because obviously he's doing better than I am on that. And the other part, which is clear for me in the philosophy, now here we go into these abstract concepts. The Creator gave itself away to create everything. So consequently, how can you find that which knowledge is the center, is just knowledge, knowing, and wisdom? You can't put your hands around that. It is not something you can behold.
Right.
Part of intelligence is the ability to believe or disbelieve in a creator that you can't see.
Yeah.
So if I've given everything up, let's say, I'm speaking as if I was the creator, how can you come and perceive me in one spot? And in philosophy, they're talking about the real term Christ before it was co-opted into the Greek Christo, which meant basically anointing, meant knowledge or all knowledge or knowledge of the all.
Yeah, it was Aramaic, I believe, originally for knowledge of the all.
And it's
yeah.
Theos in the Kabbalah, which is made, it's not the 10 seraphos or whatever you want to call them, but it's behind it, and it's a circle that's dark. It's black. And it means knowledge. You cannot see, feel, or hear as a thing knowledge. And in the book of Ben, it is very clear when it defines the Creator as knowledge. And the wisdom is the growth of that knowledge, which is the growth of Jehovah in us.
Yeah.
So I will never be able to behold the Creator. I will be able to behold more and more light, i.e. understanding, perception.
Right.
That I can attain to. But I will never be able. I went through a period, not quite of atheism, but agnosticism in the way of whether there's a creator out there or not. If we, as a species, do not live the golden rule and the 10 commandments, we're lost. Because we got to live it. Whether the creator told us to do it, if we don't do it, it's a waste of time reading the book. Any book which says do this. It's got to become part of you. It's got to become constitutional, and that's the work of it. I've got to fix my house before I can tell you how to fix your house.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Saul.
But you got a house or even an apartment. It seems to never stop needing fixing.
No, I definitely understand that as a concept. It's essentially you have a fish in the ocean who's a scientist, and you speak to the fish about water. The fish would deny that there is any water because there's no way to prove the water to the fish at all, because it's so fundamental and all pervasive that there's no contrast for there to be a recognition of water. So the fish would most definitely, a scientific fish would say, there's no proof of this water anywhere. Show me the water. I can't show it to you. What does it sound like? It doesn't have a sound. Doesn't have a taste. Doesn't have a smell. It doesn't have a feel. Well, you feel the water when you move. No, I just feel movement. Well, what about the bubbles? That's just light. We see light, it occurs, but we've never been able to capture the bubbles and study them. They disappear. But that has nothing to do, this concept of water, that's nonsense.
You know
So,
what I would do? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. What would you say to the fish?
You know what I would do? I would take that fish and put him in a chair and ask him, how do you feel?
Good point.
Put him in a chair.
I would put that fish in a chair and ask him, how do you feel?
Well, on
Oh,
land
if you
or
could take
what?
the fish out of its environment, you mean? Sure. But within the environment, there is no there's no way to distinguish anything, right?
Yeah,
So there's
interesting.
No,
so
I know what
that's-
you mean. I enjoyed that. That was go ahead and finish. I don't mean to cut you off.
Right.
Go ahead and finish.
So I recognize that as a fundamental rule when it comes to the mind trying to say this is the truth of the creator apart from the creation. It requires an abstraction that is very, very difficult for most. So then it falls down into faith, which is I believe because I have this inner conviction, which is what Darryl expressed, and that's fine. I think what I'm doing is I'm looking to understand some of the nuances to the faith, to the faithist, and
what nuances? What do you mean?
the things that make this unique and specific, like the unique style and flavor of this. Just like anything, there are varieties within everything, varieties of flowers, varieties of even rain, different types of things. Same, it's one thing, but it's a different flavor of different variety. So with the faithists, I'm looking and saying, okay, what is it that's being said? What's being said, there's a basic presupposition. You said, I look around me and I know that these things are created. Why? Well, because all created things have a creator. That's presupposing that these things were created. And that's clear. To say that there is, and then we're talking about the morality of people. Definitely there's no distinction in my mind between a person who has a conviction towards a creator and one who does not, and morals. A person can be very highly moral and not hold any specific spiritual or philosophical belief.
Correct. You're 100. Yeah, that's 100% correct. Yeah, we don't disagree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what you said. So I definitely see that. The thing is that when it comes to the connection between things, like the why, so there's a fundamental why in all spirituality that does not, that doesn't fit, whether it's theosophy, whether it's Hinduism, any of it, which is movement, like desire. When you say that, when a creator creates something, because the creator has a desire for something, that signals something is missing to me, literally missing, right? Desire means something unfulfilled.
I don't think that I want to say that I didn't say that the creator had a desire. I say he created man with desire to know, to want to know, to understand. I would never say the creator has a desire. I would never ascribe any human characteristics that the creator is above and beyond to the creator. I would never do anything like that.
So Darryl, the question is, why does the creator create?
That's a question I have too. Why am I, nobody knows that. I have the same question. I can't answer that question. I want to know this. I have the same question. Like, why? What is this? Why is this? What is this?
Do you see a difference? Is there a difference?
Is
there a distinction between the creator and the creation?
In faithist terms, from my training and study, there's an ancient statement says Jehovah and the creation are one. They are one and the same, the process thereof. Now, I want to go back to that fish thing, because I think something came to me, and it may be valid. We're going to ask, the fish doesn't know about oxygen like we know oxygen. If we're going to ask what's wrong with, the fish something, the fish is probably going to tell us, well, what's that? He says, I can't breathe anymore. I don't have any, life is being taken from me. Because the water is how it breathes. It may not know about oxygen, but that's where it breathes. So
yeah, that was my point of saying, let me put it in the chair and ask him how he feels.
With water, like we equate air with life. So the fish, basically is like, why are you killing me? Throw me back in the water. I'm dying. I can't breathe. And
well, I totally I agree. I do have many conversations with a variety of people on the TikTok platform, and one of the types of conversations has to do with belief in things that are unfalsifiable. And when it comes to like oxygen, for example, what you're saying, so part of this, the next part of the story was you have a fish that grew up in an aquarium, was released back into the ocean. The fish who grew up in the aquarium is aware of the upper world, of oxygen, air, of human beings, all these people, etc. It goes deep into the ocean and encounters another fish that has no concept of these things whatsoever, and is deep sea, will never see the surface or even go towards it. This concept of you're saying, when they say, well, what is water? Well, water is this thing and you're breathing oxygen. What is oxygen? Well, oxygen is this other thing that is not water, but it makes up part of the water. Okay, now we go down this rabbit hole of confusion. It sounds like a spiritualist. You're talking about there are worlds where there's no water at all, and those creatures are breathing, et cetera, et cetera. So it becomes, what we're doing is we're looking at it and saying, look, the nature, the only way is to say, well, there's a nature of something, a core to why and how things are, the principle of it. And it comes down to, when it comes to the creator, there's something that it's incomplete. If there's no difference between the creator and the creation, something's missing.
I wouldn't say that there isn't a difference between the creator and the creation. Did one of us say that?
Yes, that they're one and the same.
I said it. Jehovah and the creation are one. When we're to seek at one with the creator, is just becoming more and more aware of the creator and our experiences in the creator. But in that sense that you're talking, no, I mean, we are, even the Ethereans and the higher beings they're become perfected in their own way. So they are unique beings. The idea is this living, all knowledge works through the arms and legs of its body, which is us. Now the concept is that, this undifferentiated light comes down, going through different levels of the spirit world into the womb that's going to produce a corporeal being.
Right, but that's okay. So let me. So what you're saying right there, here's what my mind is. Here's where I'm at. Like I totally understand. I really do grasp where it is. So where you're coming from. My question is, here's a basic question. What is the distinction between 1 degree and the 2nd degree?
1 degree,
no,
right?
When I say that, it's clear. We say, oh, here's degree 1, and here you move, click, here's degree 2, right? If we had a protractor and we're doing that thing, right? So when you say in degree 3, 5, 6, it's 90 degrees. But what is a degree? When you say to move from degree 1 to degree 2, what is that?
It's another level of the same phenomenon.
Level, right? So the distinction this distinction between one thing and another thing, that's the question I'm zooming in on.
Okay, Saul, I think I know one way, at least it makes sense to my mind, how to answer.
Okay.
The creator has, I believe in a WASP, I'm not going to try and quote it, but my recollection is at least 3 different bodies. So we, as the creation, are a part of that body of the creator. So in a sense, we are part of the creator, because that's a layer of his body. Like we have layers of beingness, but there are layers of his body that we can never be a part of. We can strive to get closer to the creator,
Right.
but there's a distinction. So we're only, if they're like pieces of paper stacked in a stack, we're only part of one piece of paper called the creation. There's a whole bunch of other pieces of paper that are the creator that we're not a part of. I mean, we're not a part of in the sense of part of the body.
Can I read something? Can I read something to him real quick from a WASP?
Yeah.
You know, I know I try not to bring a WASP into it too much when I'm having these conversations, because it tests because it's a great test of my level of understanding. Give me just a moment here while I find it.
Well, while you're looking that up,
I got it.
You got it? Okay.
All right, it says right here in the Book of Judgment, chapter 2, verse 24. And then I'm going to read Book of Judgment, chapter 20, Book of Judgment, 8 through 10 and 13 through 14. So I'm going to just go ahead and just let it flow. It says, out of the darkness, man is brought forth a blank. Okay, that's objective. When we're born, we don't know a thing. Out of the darkness, man is brought forth a blank. And his entity is a spark of Jehovah, the great spirit. It's a spark. So if Jehovah is the all light, we're just a sun ray. We're just a part of that light. Okay, we just individualize, focalize, localize parts of that light. All right, so I'm gonna start running my mouth. Out of the darkness, man is brought forth a blank, and his entity is a spark of Jehovah, the great spirit. His entity will never cease to grow. Yes, from the hour of conception, it is a new star in the world, and it magnifies itself forever. Okay? Because of the ever presence of Jehovah, the great spirit, you were quickened into a conscious being. As your earth body is of the earth, so is your spirit of Jehovah, the great spirit. Nevertheless, spirit is the opposite of corporal life. For the latter comes to an end, but the spirit man is a tree of everlasting life. Your spirit grows by cultivation, which is by the practice of wisdom, truth, virtue, benevolence, and affiliation with others. Do not think that the soul grows by prayers or confessions to this God or that God, for no one shall be exalted for words without works. Yet, in whatever God you firmly believe, you may worship him, for he is your choice. Nor shall any man prevent you in this liberty. Almost done, 2 more verses. Nevertheless, if you worship a God or Lord, then let such be a role model to you to cast your eyes into your own soul, to purify yourself in the sight of your Creator, whom you cannot doubt. In that respect, it is no sin for you to worship any good ideal, whom you shall emulate in your behavior. It's just. It's just.
I think there's something else here. We were talking about the need. Does the tree roots have a need to grow, or is it the process of being that just grows the roots out and busts the sidewalk? You know. There's the question. Now, there's a book, and I did not find it anywhere as near the depth of Oahspe, but it's called the Book of Urantia or Urantia.
Oh yeah, I heard of that book before.
Right. I read about 1,000
I've read
pages,
some
and I
of that.
found it personally kind of sophomoric. But the point is, it had some really good things, and it made and some points that stuck in my mind. There was one point about the Creator, about the I Am, that the Creator knows things, all things, existentially. Through the creation, and I take this to mean not only we conscious cognitive beings, but the trees, every individual, the Creator experiences the creation it knows as to the abstract knowledge of it. And that stuck in my mind. I don't have a full understanding, but it kind of meant it is just the continuation of the Gestalt theory and part of the expanding person, yet that expanding person is everything. And part of being the same is to expand. And I think we also need to understand here the na, which is the going forth principle, and the om in Oahspe is with the feminine or the receptive of the Creator. So in Taoism, the great silence, the great unmovable something, the great mother.
Or in the Cobran, it's the nameless one.
I'm sorry, what?
In the Cobran, I believe it's called the nameless one.
Right, and I think it's somewhat in Blavatsky's works at Torrance, the same kind of thing. And when we talk about the motion was his speech, the na is that point, and this I can only put it in the human terms of that point when that all beingness is in its stillness and has movement and is putting forth, the lack of a word, putting forth the force of thought going forth, the motion of its awareness. But it is the same being. So the Father, in that sense, when you're not talking, I want to really get out of the gender thing. They just taught us the gender thing because we were really stupid as far as male. Male, that goes out. See, go out. Woman, you take in. Duh. The word for me, and I'd like people to experiment this and see if it's true. When I speak and listen and studying my body about how things move, when I say he, I feel a pushing out motion. When I say she, the first thing is an inward motion. What we're really talking about, in my understanding, is the ability for us as the created beings of the Creator to receive and then give forth. Now, it may be from this great silence. It is the she, he, it, instead of the it, he, she, or something like that. However you want to play with how it changes, because it's going. It's like breath.
Right.
I take in. The Creator sends something. That's na. I receive it. It's om.
It's om. Yeah.
So, in my duality, as male and female, in that sense, but like what you said early on, Darryl, there's a Hindu thing that says that Creator is male and female and basically androgynous. I forget the wording in the Hindu stuff. It is all things. And the born Aisu is that the neutral state. Yet it's both male and female at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to cut out.
Peter.
I got to cut out soon.
Yeah, I just wanted to give Saul a chance to respond to what you read, Darryl. If you have any follow up.
No, go ahead.
No, I appreciate what you did read, and it does resonate. I think, so what I see is that there's a return to a description of what is understood. And that makes sense, right? This is the creator creating there's variety in terms of the creator and its expression, which we would know as creation.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you're an expression. You're
right,
part
an
of that variety.
expression, a manifestation, and those have degrees. And so I do, again, understand that as a concept, but not as a principle. There's a rift there. There's a missing component that's very, very significant. And my mind is looking for that. It doesn't make sense. It's like an example, principally is, I'm Elon Musk and I'm looking for more money. No, you're not. Money has nothing to do with pursuit, because I just, that's irrelevant to me on all levels.
I guess I want to understand more what your question is, because it's interesting what you're saying, because you're talking about concept versus principle, and that's something that I really want to research more myself. That's really interesting that you're bringing that up. I don't know. I mean, I know you asked a question about what's in the core, but like I said, that's something that's, if I could speak for everybody that's in the faith, that's something that nobody can really give you. And I'm gonna give you an example of that. So my son he's a wrestler here in Minnesota. He's a wrestler, my young boy. And what's interesting is that we always have these conversations. I always have these conversations with him where I say, actually his coaches will have conversations with him where they would say, I can teach you these moves, but what I can't teach you is instinct.
Mm-hmm.
I can't teach you instinct. I can't give you instinct, but I can teach you the fundamentals of wrestling. I can show you like what you can do when you're in a certain situation, but really you have to make this part of your instinct. You have to make it instinctual. So, and I'm saying that to say that it's like, I can't give you, it's a really good question, but me, Dave, Peter, any of us, we can't give you that instinct. We can't give that to you,
No, I do understand that. Yeah, intuition is not something that can be provided to someone externally.
Yeah.
What I'm looking at is not so much of an intuitiveness, but investigating the premise, pushing against it. So when I say the premise, I mean the why, the core why. When someone says this is why? Because what? Because it is. That leads to something that is incomplete.
Yeah.
And then there's we'll never know. We just cannot know. I don't believe that either.
Yeah,
because
I wouldn't say that. Sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off. I wouldn't go as far to say that you cannot know or you will not know. I can't go as far as to say that. I don't want to give you something that I don't know for sure myself. And I got the same question. Like when you say, okay, there's a creator. Well, where did this creator come from? Then if you do get that answer, then the next question is going to be, well, where did that creator come from? They created this creator. And then you want to
regression. No, I get it. Yeah, no,
it's like, and then it'll be like a never ending spiraling thing. And then it's like, okay, well, it just is, you just land on like, okay, I guess whatever this is just is. I deeply, at my core, want to understand more about that. Like, what is this? I guess if I can give you something about what's in my core, my thing is like, what is this? Like, I don't know what this is. Like, what is this? But I'm leaning towards what makes more sense to me, not necessarily conceptually, but objectively. And if that's something nobody agrees with, then, I mean, that's just something nobody agrees with, and I respect that.
Well, objectively, that's the point. That is principle. Principle is the grounding of objectivity. So when you say objective, what makes your thinking or the approach objective? What is the objective factor? Because I haven't seen the objectiveness yet. I see that this is the assertion, that there is this and it works this way, and this is the how, that it does this and it does this and it does that. But there's not an objective as to this is a necessity, this is the why. It's why, and it's a universal why. So for example, if I say, oh, well, universally speaking, the objectively speaking, I know absolutely that all that all people and all things definitely will come to an end. Why? Because all people and all things are limited, because they are in and of themselves a piece. That's objective truth.
Okay,
There's
and
nothing else outside of that.
in that respect, as difficult as this may be to accept, in that respect, that's how I objectively view my inner world and my outer world. Objectively, reality shows me that behind anything that is created, whether a man created it, that there is a creator. I can't look at something I can't look at a creation and deny there's something created. It just didn't pop up.
But you're beginning.
Reality doesn't give.
But the term, when you say created, that already in the term is a presupposition that there's a creator, right? That it's created. That's already, it's like saying, yeah, so this mud is muddy. Yes, it's mud. But to say, hey, this thing, I know that it was created because of this objective principle. That does not exist yet.
I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I guess I'm not seeing it. I think that we have to. I mean, I think we have to agree to disagree on that. Like
well,
I said,
I don't think there's a disagreement. I think that there's definitely an opportunity for discernment, because it's like saying, yeah, here's something. Yeah, it's a bat, right? And so I know it was created. Why? Why do you know it was created? Well, because it has definitive shape and it has a purpose, and it seems like it's very much intended. And so that's why. Okay, but is that an objective evaluation as to knowing that this was crafted by someone and that it wasn't just there? No. Okay. So then that's the exercise. Well, how do you distinguish anything that is created from something that is not, since everything is created?
Yeah, I don't know. And that's difficult for me to wrap my head around. Go ahead, Peter.
There's of course, it's an intellectual game, but the concept, when the idea of nothing is also what's come to me, is no thing. The creator is not a thing. We are things of the creator in that respect. But what I'm saying here is that, let me just get a moment to try to get this out. In OSB, it says corpor can't prove spirit and spirit can't prove corpor. So there is a line of demarcation. Now the soul, which is part of S in general, but the soul is that which the creator connects to everything. So the soul, in the sense, and the idea in the Old Testament and in Kabbalah saying living God, means that which lives in both realms and knows it. We know it through the soul. We cannot prove it. And the spirit world cannot prove itself to us, and spirits who haven't experienced this world can't prove it is, from what I can understand.
Right. And yeah, that goes back to what I was saying earlier too. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's darkness. Now, is the confines of corporeal language and traditional meaning of words, is it really an act of creation, or is what we call creation an act of all there is ever unfolding what it is? And that creation in the world where, and again, this is, I'm not going to, I know. And it's one of the things with Christianity, this is the way, this is the only way, you've got to, no. All these angles have a validity. and from what it sounds in Owaski, it is same for the highest gods. And there is in the book of Fragapati and some of my own personal experience, a realm that's beyond even nirvana, where it is a collective consciousness. Now, nirvana, even though you're supposed to know the past, present, and future at the same time, is considered in the studies that I've studied so far as to be the highest realm of individuality. Above that, it would imply a consciousness, a collective consciousness that may be able to become more individualized. It is this expansion that is ever going on. So it is, the Creator's at one of the old statements, the Creator is always at rest and is always in action. Now, that contradicts itself, but at the same time, that's kind of what it is. We're, in one part of it is always in action, another part of it really is in rest. How as we unfold, it's kind of interesting in Owasis to me, it talks about spiritual growth, but soul unfoldment. And it may be a real difference there. The spirit realm is, in Owasis terms, what we call atmosphere, the bound thing. The soul realm is ethereal. And there are realms beyond that. And that why, to me, is the one thing. What you're talking about, Saul, I have wrestled with this for umpteen years of why.
Right.
I mean, why give me something solid? And I get all kinds of answers that is right for me from spirit. And most of the time, spirit does not come and give me an answer. It gives me a question that snaps me in to a deeper thought.
Yeah. And that's why I was saying, so I think that we all in agreement, like we all got this why. I got this why. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, it's something that we can't, I can't give you. And even into Peter's point as well, it even says in a WASP that even spirit or the spirit world is subjective to some people. That's corporate, subjective to us. I can't tell you, like what Peter said earlier, I can't tell you what heaven is like. I can't tell you what after death. I ain't seen none of that. I ain't seen none of that. The only thing that's objective to me is corporal life.
And I can, for my own self, like other people I know, we can see into spirit that we perceive as spirit. We may be wrong, but it's very real. It is tangible, but it's nothing I could ever prove to anybody out of my own experience unless they've had a similar experience. And even then, it is a subjective understanding from any corporeal point of view. And when we pass on to the spirit world, and this stuck in my mind too when I first came across it in Owaski. People got this nebulous thing, the cloudy thing. The spirit world, a floor is a floor. The ceiling is a ceiling. It is the substance to that level of being.
Right.
And many people, let's say in the first parts of the second resurrection, can't even see levels of the first resurrection that are above where they're at. They have to go to an atmospherian medium person who has the sight to see into the next realm.
Yeah, because there's people that's born with this gifted that
why
can.
is always there. And I'm going to make a kind of maybe bad joke on this. If we take, since the J really isn't in Hebrew and stuff like that, when it gets translated, it's a Y.
It's a Y.
So the Y is always going to be with it. Yehovah, he's got a Y. That question is ongoing. It's a tree with two limbs going in opposite directions.
Hey, Saul, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Because I know how much you study and how many types of people you talk to. Is there an area of study that you have found is getting you closer to the answer to your question?
Yes. The study of will is definitely is where the answer lies. You cannot, the answers, there's no way for me to taste the ice cream that you're tasting. Meaning I cannot taste it from your perspective because it's you.
Right.
And that's what you're expressing. I get that. But the thing that does bond is will. That there is a distinctive shared quality of the exertion and the experience of what it is to intend and to do. It's will. And will is something that is not only experiential, it's the most fundamental experiential thing there is. When I ask a person, hey, move your arm, how did you do that? There is no answer because we do not know how. I mean, not the measure of the technical things of this move to that. No. How did you actualize moving your arm?
Yeah, you willed it.
Right. And that is where it begins, where I say, yes, I understand much more the nature. To understand the nature, I believe for me, is to further an understanding of will. And all things which I've been listening for relate back to that. That's another fundamental absolute principle. You said I had asked Peter, so there are circumstances and conditions designed in order to bring us to another level? Yes, right. So any level, any circumstance, any condition, he said he was doing the work in order to figure things out. That was an exertion of the will.
Yes.
And what you will, you are accountable for, and you are also responsible for. And
Right.
I also want to emphasize that without the virtue of this creator's presence, we won't be able to will a damn thing. You don't have to agree.
That's the one thing I believe is the connection, absolute point, the degree to degree, that there is that thread of absolute connection between the creator and all is will. There is only will. There is nothing outside of that, even beyond even more fundamental than consciousness is will.
I think you're hitting on.
You can't have will without consciousness.
You can have will before consciousness.
Explain.
Well,
from my understanding, explain.
So consciousness is something that observes and is aware of. Will is more fundamental, that it is not aware. It is.
Oh, you can have instinct and will without consciousness. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
It's kind of like a mechanism, like a mechanical thing that happens, and then consciousness is like the operator of it eventually.
Well,
yes.
I think.
Yes.
This is an important
point. What you just said, David, very much in that direction. Will is extraordinarily difficult because it's never defined. And the reason that it's never defined is because it is at the very core. It is the most fundamental of all fundamentals, period. Will, union, they're one and the same. So this is something different. It's like, all I could say is that even I lose articulative power trying to relate how will is fundamental to all else. It becomes very, very difficult, except this. Like, I wrote a small little thing called Ripples of Will. And basically the summation of it is that will is the power to create beingness. It is the fundamental of being. So we say, I will be, I will become, I will. It is, everything is in what it is that we choose to be, and everything else is a derivative of that.
Yes, we have a whole chapter. Book of Inspiration, chapter 13, talks all about will, and also Also, when you read the first chapter, Book
Wait,
of Jehovah,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Chapter
Book of
13?
Inspiration, chapter 13 talks about will
Book of
in
Inspiration.
Oahspe. Yes.
Book of
Yeah,
Inspiration.
will is really spoken about a lot in Oahspe, and I think a lot
Yeah.
of people miss it. It's there. Going back to what we talked, what's intelligence? If the Creator is all, and when we talk about, okay, let's say when people talk about the old concept, the Darwinian evolution, a leaf, a root do things until it falls into place and they do it right. Well, and that says, well, that's not thinking, it's instinct. Well, it is. It's also force. It's also will. It is, and don't we, as big-headed as we think we are, don't we really learn by the trial and error? We don't do anything different than the weed does in that sense. So we have three supposed components of the Creator: wisdom, love, and power. What is power? Now, my own definition that helps me, power, the simplest definition for me of power is the ability to do. What is to do? That is force. In a lot of writings, I think, Saul, you would have seen it, one of the first things they define the Creator as force. Force is what? Force is will.
Yeah.
When
yeah. Go ahead, Peter.
So when I was talking about the Great Mother, the Great Silence, and that movement, what can you contribute to it? That beginning of force, of will, of something. Maybe it itself can't. Maybe there's a part of it that doesn't even define itself. So whatever, but coming down. Remember, Eve always says in Oahspe, whatever is your highest ideal, make that your Jehovah. Nobody, including the gods, they can't fully do it. Understand? So what they do is they understand to the limit of where they are. But all of the teachings, if you really look at getting something done, is just what Saul is saying: the development of willpower.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, on the bad side, it's usually used when you say willfulness because you're just being, stinky. And at the same time, we're supposed to be childlike, but not childish.
Right.
Right.
The word arameth means forgiveness, but it's more than forgiveness. It is being childlike. That I can forget that I just got pissed off at you, and to make how it phrases in Oahspe is to make your soul like a sieve for anger to go through it. I'm going to have this burst of, I don't agree, and then just let it go.
Yeah.
So, and the childishness of, I want it to be this way. This is the way it's supposed to be. So, yeah, I think maybe we're coming to more agreement on it. Without will, no happening, no movement.
Yeah, we got that. Yeah, the will is all through the Oahspe, man. Like I said, especially in chapter 13 of Book of Inspiration, but we got will. We understand that very well.
Okay, then that is my next, then that's the most intriguing pursuit on my part with the Book of Oahspe. I will be reading that. And I would like to pick up, I would like to pick up on where that leads when we speak next. I do have to bounce right now.
Yeah, I got to get going too, man. I got something I got to do with my son. But yeah, man, definitely, I would love to talk to you again, brother, because you have some very, very good questions. And what you ought to understand is I'm gonna read something to you that I memorized. I also want you to read Book of Inspiration, chapter 9, verse 5 through 10. Yeah, verse 5 through 10. I memorized this verse, so I'm gonna go ahead and read it to you from my memory. It says, "You shall be your own judge in all things." Okay, and that's exactly what it is you're doing. You should be your own judge in all things. So nothing that you're doing up here today is wrong, whether you agree or not with some of the information, or whether we agree or not with your information. You shall be your own judge in all things. Okay.
Okay.
It says, I have created you a perpetual judge. We have been created perpetual judges. I have created you a perpetual judge. Sorry. I have sent my God. It said, I have sent my God to judge you, but you shall judge the judgments of your God. And in the same manner, You shall judge your own self in the same way. Okay, it says, I created you a perpetual judge, not only to judge yourself and the world besides, but you shall also judge me, your creator. It says that right there in the book Inspiration. The creator even says to question.
Okay.
Even
Okay.
even it itself, and that's what differentiates us from a lot of the religions out there. I'm gonna pick on Christianity specifically because I was a Christian. Some years before I came into Owaspi's understanding. Because that God says not to judge or question him, or you will be punished. I don't rock with that. I never did rock with it. The reason why I came into Owaspi was because I had thoughts and questions and things that resonated with me when I found that book. You know, it wasn't a matter of, oh, I'm gonna do what this say because the book says I should do it, or because a God says I should do it. No, it's not about that. It's about reading something and finding a proof that backs up what it is you're reading. And you're doing a great job. You asked some wonderful questions, and even some questions that even got me thinking. You asked some great questions.
Well, I appreciate
definitely.
definitely you guys speaking with me. I think it was really insightful. It was very much opening into new thoughts for me, for sure. David, thanks for putting this together. I appreciate that very much. Like, I live for this. I live for this type of stuff. I really do. I literally do.
That's not a problem, man. Are you on Facebook? Are you on Facebook at Saul Severe? What's your Facebook?
Dude, first of all, I hate Facebook with a passion. I don't use Facebook.
I don't have a TikTok, man.
I have social media. I do have a Facebook. I can't even get into it right now. I tried earlier today and it got bounced. No, I don't use Facebook on a social level. I never post on it. I haven't for like almost.
Are you on Messenger at least? You message?
Once I get my account back up, then yes. Literally today, this day, as I was trying to go get the thing from David, it like was asking me for 2-factor authentication. I got booted out, whatever. But if you have, yes, when I'm back on Facebook, we'll connect or whatever. So we could do that. Do you have any other types of social?
I'm on Instagram, but I'm barely on there, man. I got an Instagram, but I'm usually just on Facebook. I mean, if you get back on Messenger, I'm easy to find. It's just
I'll be back
just
on
search
it.
Darryl.
I've already initiated the process.
Just search Darryl Kosmon. I'm right there. You'll find me.
So David's on. It drives me crazy, but you know, this is the world that is, and it's good. Yeah, Saul, this is, you know, most religions, and I know what I was going to say, but going back to, I've said it in a little bit, it says make the Creator your highest ideal. And always, even when I was doubting the Creator, like I said, I've always never had this thing of a man, woman on a throne. But, you know, I don't know if you're there. Maybe you're not there. But the golden rule basically is my highest ideal. So when an ethical, moral atheist is ethically moral and holds these ideals, that's their Jehovah.
Yes. No, I definitely agree.
Yeah, that's the highest light.
I definitely agree. And I think what David had said some months back, which really also resonated with me, was his piece about, he goes, look, everybody's on a path, and whatever path they're on is relevant. And that's absolutely good and okay. And what he reiterated tonight, when you said, David, oh, I'm not trying to convince. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I definitely am just simply open to having an exchange of what it is that I hold important, and to be open to what they hold important. I think there's a great deal of wisdom there. And so, it's not about, in my heart, truly, it's not this is wrong or this needs to be corrected or these people need to understand this or that or come to, no. It's about, for me, understanding where others are so that I can better understand what it is that I am. Right. That's really the key.
There you go, brother.
And that's what you're doing. And I'm gonna tell you something, Saul. You on the right path, man. You're on the right path. You're definitely on the right path. And because getting to the destination and where you're gonna end up, it all begins with that questioning and that level of thought. This was a great conversation. You asked some really, really great questions. You even had me want to look more. You even have me want to get back into a WASP and look more at will. But I knew it was there, which is why I said, oh, we got will. That's Inspiration chapter 13. I know about will, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't know that was a key word you was looking for. But once you said it, I was like, oh, we got that.
Oh, well, that to me, of all the discussions of all things, period, will is the most fundamental, important thing, period, to me, of all time, of everything.
Bro, that's all. Yeah, bro, that's all in a WASP, man. And like I said in the beginning of the conversation, you got nothing but will. That's all the Creator gave. You got nothing but will. You know what I'm saying? It's limited because you can't control your digestion, but you can control what you will put in your body. You know what I'm saying? So it's you gotta. So, but like I said in the beginning, you accountable for what you will. You're accountable for your choice. You're accountable. You responsible for that. At the end of the day, nobody, no savior, no God, no daddy, no mama, no brother, no sister. That's all on you. That's all on you at the end of the day. What you do with your will, that's on you. And a WASP doesn't promote do whatever thou will. It promotes, hey, you better think about what's gonna happen tomorrow if you do this. You see what I'm saying? So so that's where your morals come in, and that's also where your objective thinking comes in. Because if you fully emotional and subjective, that objective thinking gonna say, hey, if you do this, you better consider these consequences.
True.
And so but yeah, man, I'm gonna start running my mouth though, man. Go ahead and do your thing.
I appreciate you guys being here and having the discussion. David, let me know the next time we can get together.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I'll try and get something
I wanted
together.
to also say, sorry, in closing for me, I like what David, how he formed a discussion. And I know people have debates and all this, but I have to me, warring for anything, trying to prove anything to anybody after I really found OWASP, in the context we're talking, they got their path, they're going to do. But having a discussion, we are having a true discussion. Yep. We're not trying to say, oh, you got to believe how I believe. I mean, I'm trying to understand more fully what I believe. And I don't want someone to believe me, and I might be wrong. But then if I force you to believe what I believe and I'm wrong, then I got to pay the consequences when I may be someplace where for 100 years where I'm going to hear you telling me about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's getting late for everybody. So I'm gonna go ahead and just call it.
All right.
Call it.
All right, hey, thanks for putting this together, man. Saul, it's nice to meet you, Peter. It was wonderful
Darryl.
to be in your presence, Peter. Wonderful to be in your presence, man.
Thank you. And
thanks everybody for showing up.
I made it to 80 years old. I guess I got a few more years going, so.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Good night,
all right,
everybody.
Love,
nice
love wisdom and power to you all, and safety. Bye.